Hello, Jacob here. And the 2020 Minnesota Vikings schedule has been released. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, yeah, as you know, tonight was the big 2020 NFL schedule reveal. And, boy, there's some interesting things going on in this schedule. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and start it off from the top. The first game of the year, ironically enough, very interesting because, well, this rarely ever happens. I think this might actually be the first time this has ever happened, but the Minnesota Vikings host the Green Bay Packers at noon on Fox. Week 1 at US Bank Stadium. I think that's the first time the Packers and Vikings have met Week 1 ever. I mean, I know the last couple of years, the first time we played them was Week 2. So, it's kind of interesting that we start the year off on such a massive, massive game. But also, I'd kind of like to see us avenge what happened Week 16 last year, the last time they played at US Bank Stadium. To this point, that's probably got to be my most frustrating game. But yeah, so now Week 2, we go to the Colts. That's also a noon Fox game. So, yeah, I mean, the Colts, be interesting to see. Phillip Rivers, decent defense, a couple good weapons. Be interesting to see what the Colts look like, because they're one of those teams that could be very good or very bad. Just kind of depends on what way the injuries break, because unfortunately, yeah. Just ask Andrew Luck. But anyway. So yeah, the Colts, that'll be an interesting game. Then we host, Week 3, the Tennessee Titans. Now that game is going to be a pretty interesting test for us, just because, well, Derrick Henry. And by the way, did I also mention these guys made it to the AFC Championship game last year? So yeah, you can't overlook the Titans. Tannehill coming off of a big contract. They have a very, very up-and-coming defense. Also kind of helps that your head coach was a former defensive player, so it's kind of nice, ain't it? So yeah, and then the next game is Week 4 at Houston. Noon game as well on Fox. So far in the first quarter of the season, all noon games. So that'll be kind of nice, get the bearings back again and all that stuff. And as I said before, Houston is, well, that's going to be an interesting team to watch this year. That's going to be a very interesting team to watch. Just because, again, no Hopkins. They trade for, well, like I said, I could just, Randall Cobb, David Johnson, yeah. But anyway, they still have a pretty good defense, though, so all things considered. And now, finally, the first major, well, I should say probably the second major game after Green Bay, but our first night game is a Sunday night game, Week 5, at Seattle. Thank God it's a Sunday night game and not a Monday night game. I don't think I can handle another Seattle Monday night game in Seattle at this point. But yeah, so thankfully our Sunday night game has been better than our Monday night game, but again, it's still Seattle in Seattle. Look at former videos of mine, especially after we played Seattle, because for whatever reason, we always seem to play Seattle in Seattle. So again, who knows, maybe this year we can finally take them down. So, and then the next week, we host the Atlanta Falcons for Week 6. At least they'll have new uniforms. But they do also have Todd Gurley, though. So, yeah, the Falcons, again, are interesting. Just because when you expect them to be good, they're horrible. And when you expect them to be horrible, they win like 7 of their last 8 games. So, yeah. It is what it is. I mean, you can't take any team lightly, especially because they still have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. So, yeah. And then, for once, probably one of the first times in the last few years we actually have a bye week before week 10. Week 7 this year is our bye week. So that'll be kind of nice, especially because the very next game, which by the way is kind of interesting, but we're at Lambeau, week 8, November 1st, noon on Fox. So yeah, we wrap up Green Bay pretty early this year, considering I think last year we played them week 2 and week 16. So yeah, I mean, again, the whole debacle there is Aaron Rodgers going to be the guy, or who's going to be the guy? And then, of course, we host the Lions on CBS at noon, week 9. So it'll be interesting to see what the Lions look like. You know, how good is Stafford? Is their defense actually improved? Is Matt Patricia still there? Yeah, let's just say poor Detroit. Anyway, and now, week 10 at Chicago, Soldier Field, Monday night. Oh boy. The House of Horrors for the Minnesota Vikings, no matter what frickin' year it is. I think we've won there twice in like the last 10 years. And like before a couple of years ago, it was like we hadn't won there in like 10 years. So we've won there like 3 times in the last 10. It's not been good. However, though, Nick Foles versus Mitchell Trubisky, that'll be interesting to see how that all, turns out. And then our first, well, I guess technically our first America's game of the week, and ironically enough, at home versus the Dallas Cowboys. 3:25 Fox game for week 11. Yeah, that'll be an interesting one, just because Dallas is getting loaded on offense. I mean, they have some studs. And, well, remember last year how that went on Sunday night? We couldn't stop Diddly Doodah, but thankfully they couldn't stop us either, so it kind of evened out at the end. So it'll be interesting to see because, I mean, there's been rumors that Andy Dalton might be the starter, Dak Prescott, are they trying to do this, are they trying to do that, blah, 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 Sabbath, whatever, but we'll just wait and see by then, because now we're at that point of the year where injuries could pile up for any team, like I say, anything can happen. So week 12, Teddy comes back to town. As week 12, we host the Carolina Panthers. That's also a noon game. And on Fox. So, yeah, I mean, the first time Teddy's been, like, the starter, first time I think Teddy's been back at US Bank Stadium since he was a Viking, honestly. So, that'll be interesting to see that. It'll also be interesting to see how Carolina looks. And then week 13, the Jacksonville Jaguars come to town. CBS at noon. So by then, who knows what'll happen with the Jacksonville? Who knows? They might be contending for a playoff spot, or they might be the number 1 pick. I mean, who knows? Because, yeah, they're basically getting rid of everybody on their team at this point. So last few years, and again, who would have thought that would have been in the AFC Championship game literally 3 seasons ago? But anyway, yeah, like I say, there's been plenty of talk about just the Jags in general. And now, the game, that might be this game right here. Just even 6 months ago, I would have said, nah, we're playing the Bucs. But now, with all the things that have happened in this offseason, week 14 in Tampa against Tom Brady, Gronk, and a young defense. And by the way, that is scheduled right now as a noon game on Fox. But like I say, don't be surprised if by the end of this year, I mean, who knows? This could be potentially for seeding in the NFC. There could be a lot of things at this point. So, but yeah, I mean, that'll be interesting to see how we stack up against Tom Brady because, well, whenever we played him in New England, I don't think we've beaten New England in like the last 20 years. But anyway, again, this is totally different, though, because he's now over on the NFC side with Gronk, with Godwin, with Evans, This could be kind of similar to the LA Rams game back in 2018, where it was essentially an air raid game at that point. But anyway, it'll be interesting to see. And then week 15, noon game on Fox, is our last home game of the year. And of course, it has to be the Bears. Which, this is honestly the first time we've played since, I want to say, like 2015. Yeah, because the last 3 or 4 seasons, the Bears have been week 17 at home. So this is the first time we don't end with the Bears in a long time, honestly. So, and again, who knows what the Bears will look like by this point? Is it Foles? Is it Trubisky? Is Matt Nagy still going to be there next year? You know. And the weirdest, probably most highly looked after game, week 16. This is an interesting one, ladies and gentlemen. We go to New Orleans on Christmas Day. It's sort of like a Fox NFL Network special edition game. 3:30 in New Orleans on Christmas. Yeah, of course it's the New Orleans Saints. I mean, Drew Brees, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston now. That'll be interesting to see if they actually use him or what the case is. So, but yeah, I mean, we beat them the last how many years in the playoffs? And we're going back down there again. So, it's going to be, again, interesting to see how that all turns out. Just because, again, New Orleans. Who knows if they'll have some sort of voodoo spirit trying to take us down like they did in 09. But anyway, still salty. But again, woulda, coulda, shoulda, blah, blah, blah. And lastly, we go to Detroit to round out this season, week 17, on January 3rd at noon on Fox. Again, by then, who knows, Patricia might finally be out of there and they might actually be, starting over again. So, again, Detroit, though, is an interesting team because, again, they always give the NFC North a run for their money. So, yeah, I mean, just kind of going over the schedule. The big games that I'm going to be really honed into is, like I say, right away we start off with Green Bay at home. So that is a huge game to start off the gate. And then, of course, Seattle, in Seattle, on Sunday night this time, not Monday night. So we might actually have a shot for once. Then, of course, week 7 bye. Of course, the Tampa game. The Teddy Bridgewater game again. Soldier Field on Monday night. And in New Orleans on Christmas Day. But with all that being said, though, I mean, I'll kind of do more of a preview once, everything settles down and once we actually understand, the final rosters and all that stuff. But if I had to make an early prediction, I could see us going 10-6. So, safe bet, 10-6, just because, well, as I said before, the NFC North, Green Bay is going to be interesting to see how long Aaron Rodgers stays their quarterback. Chicago, well, as I said before, they are paying 2 mediocre quarterbacks a lot of money. And yet people are still saying Kirk Cousins is overpaid. Anyway, Detroit, well, I just feel bad for them, honestly. I mean, they've had such bad luck over the last God knows how long. So, I mean, yeah, it'll be interesting to see here because we have the 10th hardest schedule. So, who knows? All I can say is get ready, boys, and let's hope that we have a full season because who knows how long this COVID thing is going to continue on. But thankfully, at the very least, this gives us an idea. And again, if stuff like that happens where we have to change the schedule or kind of move some stuff around, I'll get into we'll just basically find out what the hell happens. But at this point, just expect everything to go as the schedule says. So, Until we meet again, this is Jacob. Have a good day, and Skol Vikings.